Saudi Arabia isn't just trying to join the AI race. It's trying to change where that race gets run. Look at how this has worked for decades. Silicon Valley builds the companies. America designs the chips. Taiwan manufactures the most advanced semiconductors. The big cloud platforms decide who gets access to compute. That's the map we all know. But AI is starting to redraw it, because the most valuable thing in the next phase may not be the best app. It may not even be the best model. It may just be raw, concentrated compute power. And Saudi Arabia has decided it wants a serious piece of that layer. The old version of Saudi power was simple: oil. The new version is messier: energy, land, capital, data centers, chip access, sovereign AI models, partnerships with the biggest tech companies on the planet. That's why this story matters. The Saudis aren't just writing checks into AI startups and hoping one of them turns into the next OpenAI. They're building the physical guts that AI companies need to survive. Data centers, cloud platforms, AI factories, power deals, semiconductor partnerships. And here's the thing: the more expensive AI gets, the more valuable all of that infrastructure becomes. The public face of all of this is a company called HUMAIN. It was launched under the Public Investment Fund, and it's chaired by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. PIF describes HUMAIN as a company built to provide next-generation data centers, AI infrastructure, cloud capabilities, advanced AI models, and AI solutions. Its portfolio page goes further. It says HUMAIN was launched to build the entire AI stack: data centers, cloud infrastructure, models, applications. The whole stack. That's the phrase to hold on to. Saudi Arabia doesn't want to be a passive customer here. It wants to own enough of the stack that global AI companies eventually have to treat Riyadh as a serious hub. The Nvidia deal is what made the ambition impossible to miss. Nvidia and HUMAIN announced a strategic partnership to build AI factories inside Saudi Arabia, with projected capacity of up to 500 megawatts, powered by several hundred thousand of Nvidia's advanced GPUs over 5 years. Phase 1 alone is an 18,000-chip Nvidia GB300 Grace Blackwell AI supercomputer, running on Nvidia's InfiniBand networking. That's not a symbolic pilot. That's sovereign compute, at scale. Nvidia itself called the infrastructure foundational for training and deploying sovereign AI models. Not consumer apps, sovereign models. And this is where the story slides out of normal tech investment and into geopolitics. For years, the choke point in AI has been advanced chips and the power to run them. Startups can raise all the money they want, but if they can't get GPUs, they can't train or serve a competitive model. Even the big players are clawing at the same supply chains. Saudi Arabia is going right at that choke point. Instead of waiting for capacity to open up through American cloud providers, it's trying to build the capacity at home and invite the AI economy to come to it. Reuters reported that HUMAIN has broken ground on its first Saudi data centers, with sites in Riyadh and Dammam expected to come online with up to 100 megawatts each. The company is sourcing semiconductors from U.S. chip makers, including Nvidia's latest AI chips. And Nvidia previously said it would sell hundreds of thousands of AI chips into Saudi Arabia, starting with 18,000 Blackwell chips going to HUMAIN. AMD also signed on for a $10 billion collaboration with HUMAIN. This isn't one deal, it's a cluster of them, all circling the same idea. Saudi Arabia wants compute independence. American chip companies want enormous new customers. That matters because the AI race isn't only about innovation anymore. It's about allocation. Who gets the chips? Who gets the power? Who gets the data center permits? Who gets cooling? Who gets priority from Nvidia, AMD, Cisco, Qualcomm, the cloud providers? Countries that can answer those questions at national scale have leverage. Saudi Arabia is trying to turn that leverage into an economic engine. The AMD and Cisco partnership shows just how wide this strategy is getting. Reuters reported that AMD, Cisco, and HUMAIN are forming a joint venture to build data centers across the Middle East, starting with a 100-megawatt facility in Saudi Arabia. And here's the kicker: that entire first project has reportedly already been contracted by the generative video startup Luma AI. The joint venture is aiming for up to 1 gigawatt of data center capacity by 2030, with AMD providing the MI450 AI chips and Cisco handling networking. That Luma detail matters. It tells you the model isn't build it and hope customers show up. The customer is already there. Generative video is brutal on compute. The more realistic, the longer, the higher resolution the video gets, the more infrastructure it eats. So if Saudi Arabia can offer a big, power-backed, chip-backed campus to companies like that, it stops being just a source of capital. It becomes a destination for actual workloads. Then there's the local telecom angle. Reuters reported that STC and HUMAIN have formed a joint venture to push Saudi data center buildout, targeting infrastructure capable of supporting up to 1 gigawatt, with an initial deployment of up to 250 megawatts. That same report said HUMAIN had agreements in place with Elon Musk's xAI and with Blackstone-backed AirTrunk, and was aiming for roughly 6 gigawatts of capacity by 2034. 6 gigawatts isn't a startup accelerator. That's national-scale infrastructure. Now pull the camera back. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 has always been about diversifying away from oil. AI just gives that plan a new shape. Oil money buys chips. Energy infrastructure powers data centers. Land hosts the campuses. Sovereign capital underwrites projects that private venture money might find too slow, too expensive, or too heavy on the infrastructure side. In Silicon Valley, AI is mostly framed as software. In Saudi Arabia, it's being framed as industrial infrastructure, which is why NEOM and DataVolt matter. NEOM said DataVolt signed an agreement to develop the region's first net-zero AI factory campus inside Oxagon, with an initial $5 billion investment expected to fund the first phase. Industry reporting describes the plan as a 1.5 gigawatt campus in NEOM's Oxagon industrial area. Whether every target lands on time, that's a separate question. But the direction is clear. Saudi Arabia is fusing AI infrastructure with energy and industrial planning. This is the AI oil field idea. The valuable resource is no longer just crude oil underground. It's usable energy converted into compute. If AI demand keeps climbing, the countries that can offer cheap power, land, capital, and political coordination become more important. Virginia data centers are bumping into grid constraints. Ireland is taking heat over energy use. Other hubs are stuck in permitting delays, water concerns, public backlash. Saudi Arabia wants to be the place where the state can move fast, line up the infrastructure, and make billion-dollar commitments without waiting on the usual venture cycles. But there's a catch. The Saudis can't simply buy their way into AI dominance without dealing with chip politics. Advanced AI semiconductors are strategic assets now. Washington has been using export controls to manage who gets the most advanced chips and where those chips can go. Reuters reported that U.S. firms including Nvidia and AMD locked in AI deals during Trump's Gulf tour, backed by hundreds of billions in Saudi commitments. Reuters also reported that the U.S. later authorized exports of advanced American semiconductors to state-backed firms in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, with the approvals tied to security and reporting guidelines. So Saudi Arabia's AI rise rests on a geopolitical bargain. The kingdom wants sovereign compute. U.S. chip companies want huge new buyers. Washington wants its tech ecosystem embedded in the Gulf instead of leaving that space wide open for China. Everybody wants something. And that's what makes this bigger than a normal data center story. Compute is becoming diplomacy. It's also why the Saudi Arabia versus Silicon Valley framing needs to be careful. Saudi Arabia is not replacing Silicon Valley tomorrow. It still leans heavily on American chips, American software ecosystems, American AI partnerships, Western cloud expertise. HUMAIN sources chips from Nvidia, AMD, Qualcomm, Grok. It has partnerships or planned collaborations with the likes of Google and Amazon Web Services, and it's met with OpenAI. The point isn't that Silicon Valley disappears. The point is that Silicon Valley may no longer be the only place where the biggest AI infrastructure decisions get made. There's also a manufacturing angle here. Through Alat, Saudi Arabia's $100 billion PIF-owned sustainable manufacturing company. Reporting around Alat suggests the kingdom originally had broad technology manufacturing ambitions, but by early 2026, some of the semiconductor production plans had reportedly been dropped or redirected, with resources refocusing toward Saudi Arabia's broader data center hub strategy through HUMAIN. That actually makes the story more interesting, not less. The Saudis may have realized that building cutting-edge chips from scratch is brutally hard, but building the infrastructure that consumes those chips is a faster path to power. The talent question is the harder one. Building a data center is one thing. Building a deep AI research culture is another animal entirely. Saudi Arabia can recruit aggressively, offer tax advantages, fund labs, develop Arabic-focused models. HUMAIN and Aramco have described HUMAIN as building advanced AI models, including one called Alam, a multimodal Arabic large language model. Part of the play is about serving an Arabic-speaking market that hasn't really been at the center of frontier AI development. If the Saudis can combine local language models, sovereign data, and serious compute, then they have a real reason to exist beyond just renting out GPUs. That said, the risks are very real. Massive infrastructure projects miss deadlines. Chip export approvals can change overnight. Power and cooling claims have to be proven in operation, not on paper. Talent is hard to import, harder to keep. Data center economics depend on customers who can actually afford expensive AI workloads. And if AI monetization slows down, the same giant bet that looks visionary today can start to look overbuilt tomorrow. But that's exactly why this story is worth watching. Saudi Arabia is betting that compute is the new strategic commodity. If that bet is right, the AI map changes. Not because the desert suddenly replaces Silicon Valley as the birthplace of software startups, but because the desert becomes one of the places where AI physically runs. The models may still be designed in San Francisco. The chips may still be designed in Santa Clara. The supply chain may still run through Taiwan and the United States. But the power, the land, the capital, the sovereign infrastructure, that may increasingly run through the Gulf. The post-oil economy was always going to need a new engine. Saudi Arabia appears to have chosen compute, and if AI really does become the electricity of the next industrial era, then the countries that control large-scale AI infrastructure are going to matter far more than most people understand right now. So the real question isn't whether Saudi Arabia can buy AI. The real question is whether it can buy enough of the AI infrastructure layer to force the rest of the world to take it seriously. And between the Nvidia deals, the HUMAIN buildout, the AMD and Cisco joint venture, the STC partnership, and the NEOM data center plans, the answer is starting to look uncomfortable. Saudi Arabia isn't just watching the AI race anymore, it's buying a lane. Stay sharp. Jane Sterling, Sterling Intelligence.